The Cultural Council's mission is to nurture, promote, and support a healthy, diverse, and inclusive cultural sector so that the arts and culture are a part of everyday life for everyone. We invite listeners to discover Florida's cultural capital online at palmbeachesculture.com. Welcome to the ArtiGras Podcast, where we dive into all things art and culture in Palm Beach County, South Florida, and maybe a little bit beyond. I'm your host, Sarah LaPierre, and I'm here today with a wonderful guest who I'm so excited to have on and just talk with more. Evan Snow. He's a creative entrepreneur. I'm just going to read this list because he's got a long list. He's a creative entrepreneur. He's a rare Florida native like myself. He's an arts and environmental advocate. He's a fine art event organizer, a yogi, and an author as well. And I'm sure there's more to that list, but we're going to talk some about those things. So welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, my friend.
Actually, before we get into your background, I want to give a little background on us.
Sure.
We met through your initiative, Zero Empty Spaces,
Correct.
Which we're totally going to dive into. But since then, we've been on a book club together and we've attended a lot of events together. It's been great. So I'm excited to kind of share more of your story with our audience. I think they're going to be excited about it. So we're going to start with the background. And I want to know, as someone who's been so involved in the arts community in Florida, where did that spark start? Like, where was the initial event or experience that really drew you to it and made you want to dive in more?
Sure. Well, once again, thank you very much for having me. And for those of you that are not sure, I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
It was definitely the first two trips to Wynwood. The first trip is actually super serendipitous because it was for a little music festival that was at its early stages called 3 Points, which is about to celebrate 11 years, that takes place in Wynwood, which is art, music, and technology. And I was just blown away. It was very raw, very underground in 2014. And I was just like, what's this Wynwood thing? This is so cool. Went to a really cool after hours place that unfortunately isn't there anymore afterwards, and just was amazed by the culture and the people and the murals everywhere. So I started looking more into this Wynwood thing. And once again, this is 2014. So this was, really before so much of the social media and blogging and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I kept hearing about this Art Basel thing that I knew nothing about, because I truly was a regular Johnny 9-to-5 recruiter, sat at a desk, went to go watch the Miami Heat and Hurricanes games after work with my friends, but I was not into art at all. And I'll never forget, I got all hyped up about this Art Basel thing coming up, posted on Facebook, who wants to go? Nobody responded. And I made one of the best choices of my life. And I went down to North Miami Avenue and 25th Street in Wynwood. And I didn't make it more than 2 blocks. And it wasn't during a fair. It was just during Miami Art Week.
Okay. Yeah.
The coolest thing, live art, glass blowing. There was an indoor skate ramp park. There were shipping containers filled with installations. I went to Kush, had my first Kush burger that night. And I was just enthralled. Never passed up an opportunity to go to Wynwood after that. Obviously, for those that know, it's changed a little bit since 2014, but it was those early sparks of, wow, this is like an adult playground for art with murals everywhere, that I eventually wanted to recreate that in my native Broward County in downtown Fort Lauderdale, where I was moving to at that time, and found that there was a little bit going on, but there wasn't really anybody promoting it or curating it. And that's what initially led me to my first initiative, which was Choose 954. a social movement to cultivate culture and community in Broward County.
That's an amazing launching point, by the way. Like, how incredible that you were in and around such an amazing art central where you could just have that as your, it's you didn't go to a little art and craft show. Those are amazing too, but you went to Art Week Miami. That's huge.
At that time when it was still relative, Art Basel, Miami Art Week was blowing up, but Wynwood was still raw and underground.
Very
and that
much
was
so.
Early stages, Zach the Baker. And so it was more art back then. And obviously it's a little commercial now, but another story for another day.
So the first initiative, that was you doing more events, attending them and writing about them, right?
Covering them, from just started with my cell phone and a hashtag. Got some inspiration to start Choose 954 from a social movement I was following in Memphis called Choose 901, which is the area code there. And at this time, the art walk in Fort Lauderdale in a place called Flagler Village, it used to be Fat Village, it was just starting to burgeon. I mean, tens of people, dozens of people, a few hundred people, and there was really no central, the South Florida Sun Sentinel, they would cover it occasionally, but there wasn't really this blogging thing, and there wasn't really that many cultural curators. So I kind of took that initiative upon myself. This was at the time Facebook Live was becoming more popular, Snapchat was becoming more popular, and I started visual storytelling, and I thought it was a lot easier to show people than to tell them. And I grew up just 30 minutes to the west in a little town called Coral Springs. I felt if the people that I grew up with that I was not seeing as I was going out and about knew all the great things that are going on in the arts in Broward County, it would give them reasons to choose the 954. And then that fortunately really wasn't going on that long when I met my soon-to-be future business partner, which kicked off our real first venture, which was Art Fort Lauderdale, the Art Fair on the Water.
Art Fair on the Water, that's such a cool one too. But I want to get into it because I want to make sure we have time for Zero Empty Spaces.
Yes.
So kind of a little bit of highlights. Can you share what, you already basically talked about a little bit, but what else inspired you to take vacant commercial spaces and revitalize them and offer them as art studios that are affordable and places where artists can both create and sell and showcase their work? Where did that spark come from between you and your partner?
Sure. So, and the Art Fort Lauderdale, we stopped producing at the beginning of COVID, so it's not worth getting so much into, but essentially we were producing an art fair inside of luxury waterfront homes that were for sale, that were vacant, and we made it only accessible via boat. So it was very unique. So from that experience, we got more involved with the real estate board, which had brokers, developers, and property managers start asking us, hey, could you do art in our commercial space? And fortunately, my business partner was a marketing executive for the Westfield Corporation, one of the biggest mall companies in the world. He had developed vacancy management strategies and solutions for malls. He developed the first commission-free art gallery and the food court in the underutilized section. And he would do innovative things instead of just putting up the black mask tape and barricade for an empty space. He would bring in art and he would do activations. So Zero Empty Spaces kind of came out of Art Fort Lauderdale. We were creating this platform and providing a platform for artists to have space to exhibit in, places they would never normally exhibit, a $12 million mansion. And then, we were leaving a meeting one day. We saw all of these for lease signs. That it was the day that this article, I'll never forget, came out that said Broward County was one of the least affordable counties for housing in the country. This was pre-COVID. And we said, well, what if we can make this one of the most affordable places for artists to create in? Saw all these for lease signs and said, what if there was no more empty spaces? But what if there was zero empty spaces, which is obviously an ambitious goal. And we approached our mayor, Dean Trantellis, who's a supporter of the arts and supporter of the arts, said, hey, Dean, we want to see about taking some empty spaces and put an artist in them for studios, until they get leased. He said, why don't you reach out to Mike Weymouth, the owner of Los Olas Company. Always heard he was a tough cookie. Main Street, downtown Fort Lauderdale, like our Rodeo Drive. Yeah. Took him 2 minutes. He gave us a first space. We were there. A space was vacant for 3 years. We put a bunch of talented local artists in there that had their own unique following. Serge, Rosanna Collis, Steve Diossi. And we had one of the widest attended grand openings of anything in Fort Lauderdale history. Over 1,000 people in the street. A lot of buzz, a lot of press, NPR, press coverage. And 3 months into it, a guy came in. He said he liked the buzz and energy in the space, asked for the landlord's number. They moved us to the next available space. After that got leased, same thing happened. And it proved the concept, which has now led to 31 formerly vacant spaces we've activated over the last 5 years, now in 4 states, with over 650 artists coming through the program. And it has changed hundreds of artists' lives, thousands of times over. And they are running longer than just the 3 months now. Our Palm Beach Garden space has been there since COVID, 4 years. So, and we're working to make them longer term and more sustainable and have even new initiatives and new platforms for other creatives, including culinary arts, maker spaces.
Oh, wow. That's exciting. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, I was a part of the studio spaces. Zero Empty Spaces had locations in West Palm Beach, and I jumped on it when that became available. I can't remember the year, but maybe it was like 21.
Yeah, in the warehouse district.
The warehouse district in 21, which was a great space. And I mean, even from that, I met some really cool people. It was a short, term there, but it did a lot for me. It was so meaningful for me at that moment in time to be able to get out into an affordable studio space, be in a venue, be around other creative people. Like kind of it was coming out of COVID more for me at that time. So being around other creatives again, other people who were, being active and getting out there. And yeah, it was a fun space and a great time, and something that I treasure and always, tell artists, hey, if you're looking for something, even if it's for an interim, doesn't have to be long term. That's part of, potentially the benefit of this, that you always got to check out the Zero Empty Spaces. And it's great that we have one here in Palm Beach Gardens. I love that. And I tell people all the time to visit them. Actually, can we do a little location shout out? So if you want to visit the artist studios, that is Zero Empty Spaces in Palm Beach Gardens, it's in Legacy Place, right?
Correct, off of PGA.
Off of PGA Boulevard. And I'm not sure how many artists are there now.
21. And they have their open studios every second Saturday. They do a lot of other events. They're leading with out of all of our locations with nonprofit fundraisers and collaborations. So if you have a nonprofit, if you have a organization that you like to support, please don't hesitate to reach out. They've created amazing win-win-wins for the artists,
Definitely,
for the nonprofit, the community, and for Legacy Place as well.
Yeah. And this space is beautiful. Is it your largest one, or it's one of your larger ones?
It's a former Woodhouse day spa. So each artist has a room that used to be like a massage room.
That has to be some good energy in there. I feel like very relaxing.
It is, because it's like wooded. It's probably the nicest art studio you'll ever see.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool space. Anthony Burks has been leading the charge there. The mayor of art in Palm Beach, founder of No More Starving Artists Foundation. He's been there since the beginning for 4 years. We have a few artists that have been there the whole time. And that location has probably created some of our greatest success stories, not just with the nonprofit collaborations like the musical masterpieces we did with the Palm Beach Symphony, but even because there's so many artists, because they're motivated, because they're all promoting to their channels, when they do an event, almost every artist sells, which really blows my mind every time. But not only have they built a following, and they've built, brand awareness in Palm Beach Gardens, but so much so that, God bless her, Mayor Chelsea Reed has helped bring in art into City Hall and has featured a bunch of our artists, our resident artists. And it's even spawned other initiatives and other collaborations. A bunch of the artists have been exhibiting also in some local libraries as well, which is super cool, just because these people in the community are able to discover artists in places that they normally wouldn't discover them.
Absolutely.
In a shopping center like Legacy Place. So we're super grateful and forever grateful for Anna Torres and the Legacy Place team for having us and helping out.
No, it's such a great integration, because sometimes when you think of artist studios, you have these whole separate districts, right? That are places that are very much so destination oriented. You have to go there specifically for, to visit these studios, as opposed to when you have Zero Empty Spaces locations that are just integrated into shopping malls, other, centers that people are just kind of spending their day running their errands, going about, and they happen across a studio. Correct. There's magic to that. Yeah.
It helps with the discovery process. We always like to say some artists are fortunate to have like a front window space, and we've seen people and heard from people in the community that walk by that window every day going to get their coffee or whatever, going to the gym. And they said, I've watched this piece transform through the window. If they stop for 5 seconds, 5 minutes or whatever. And it's just so cool because, and shout out to Sarah and the Peach, but, your space is super cool in a traditional, industrial, type of environment, but it is somewhat of a destination I enjoy going to, and I encourage people to go to as well. But we're glad to be able to provide these mediums, not just in shopping centers, but our other Palm Beach County location at the moment is in the largest office building in the state, in the Boca Raton Innovation Campus, the former IBM headquarters, where we helped them kick off their Art on Brick Walls program a few years ago, putting art on the miles of hallways that they have.
Just almost endless hallways that are now covered in artwork, right? And that rotates the artwork.
Correct. And they bring in different groups, Lynn University, Palm Beach, Watercolor Society. And we have what's now pretty much been established as a permanent space in the brick, which is now an amenity for their employees because they get to engage with artists. They get to walk by the studio on their way to work, on their way to their break every day. And we've had employees at the brick commission artists, not just for paintings, but for like throw pillow covers.
Wow.
We have an artist, Michelle Sherman. I heard you could draw. She teaches classes for kids and adults there. She's great. So, and we actually just added a few more studios to that location. So I think now we're up to 19 artists. So we have about 40 studios currently active in Palm Beach County, providing a great opportunity to local artists.
That's incredible. And these studios are also, there's openings that come and go, right? So if an artist wanted to discover and potentially, get in touch with you, it's through the website, right? I'll have you plug everything at the end and make sure we get it. But also they can look up Zero Empty Spaces. They can find out if there's openings available, or they can kind of get on a roster.
The waiting list.
Yeah, the waiting list.
We asked them to submit an application because it is month to month. So people do come and go.
Right. So, okay, that's another thing I want to ask about is what does that selection process look like? How do you determine, how do you make sure that you're getting, a vibrant, diverse community in these locations? What's the selection of artists entail?
So we pride ourselves on being inclusionary community builders. And we found, as I'm sure you found, with some art residencies and programs, it's very heavily juried and it's really only for the select few. The ones that I've drawn inspiration from in Miami that are noteworthy and highly respected, and I admire them for sure, but they generally require an MFA, they require a long CV, and you generally have to be part of the Cool Kids Club or know somebody that knows somebody to get in there. And in all reality, you're really only helping out artists that are probably already going to make it. We pride ourselves on pairing emerging, mid-career, and established artists together. So our criteria is, as long as you have a practice, you have some work, it doesn't have to be a large body of work. We love putting, and Palm Beach Gardens in Palm Beach County and specifically is probably one of the best success stories, examples of this. We have so many retirees, grandmas and grandpas, that have been painting at home for 20 or 30 years, that took over the kitchen table, the third, fourth, fifth bedroom, the garage, that their partner, family member, whoever saw an article in the press and said, hey, honey, you should try this. And I've had so many, and it brings a tear to my eye every time, so many of these genuinely nice, creative people come to me at their first event and say, I never called myself an artist. I never stepped out of my house with my art. And now for $250 a month with no commission, with 24-hour access, they're in a space with 20 other artists. If you're fortunate enough to get in the Legacy Place location, you're with Anthony Burks, who's been creating for over 40 years, who's the leader of art in Palm Beach County.
A museum collected artist as well.
Correct. And helped. It helps when you can invite the director of the Norton Museum to your studio in a shopping center in Legacy Place versus going to your home. So we love that opportunity to be inclusionary as long as you have a practice, some work, and you're planning to use it to create. You can sell, there is no commission, but it can't just be an inexpensive gallery where you put your business card up and hope for the best. We need everybody to be bought in. We only ask people to be there one day a week to help keep the space open and active. And if everybody does their part, they're nice to their neighbors and friends, it's a great win-win-win.
It's a beautiful system. Yeah, absolutely. No, right. The point is to activate these spaces, to make them, look appealing to future potential tenants.
Correct.
And then a place where people want to, peek in and see what's going on. There's a curiosity, there's a spark of interest because somebody's in there creating something and you want to know more.
Correct.
Are there any other success stories that you wanted to mention from Zero Empty Spaces?
In the Palm Beach location specifically, I mean, we really have seen so many artists just have amazing success through the nonprofit collaborations. The one that always stands out is the musical masterpieces we did with the Palm Beach Symphony, where they provided discarded instruments that weren't being played, had the artist paint and embellish them with whatever their respective style was, and they were auctioned at the opening event at the Kravitz Center of the season, with 50% of the proceeds going back to the artist, 50% going to the symphony for their education programs. That received like immense press coverage.
That's really cool.
One person's trash is another person's treasure. The other one that I love to mention, and she's up there with you as one of my favorites. Rosanna Collis was a former investment banker working for the largest company in Broward County, and she always wanted to pursue her art. She had made a few attempts at having studios in the arts districts in Broward County. And we opened that first space on Las Olas. Her and Steve Dowsey were the first two artists to come. And she had exhibited in the art fair. She was getting her art out there, but she was not, pursuing it full time. God bless her. Her husband and family supported her. She gave up her very high paying job as an executive investment banker to pursue her art and creativity. She was the first artist we put on NPR with the program, which I loved because she's a friend of mine. And she was able to turn to her studio mate, Sergio, who's one of the most noteworthy muralists in Miami. Not her kid's school, but a school near her kid's school asked her to do a mural. She had never done a mural before. She was able to turn to her studio mate, who's one of the most knowledgeable and kind muralists, and said, "Hey, could you help me out with that?" He brought in Nate D., who's another, famous, noteworthy mural artist. They helped her bang out this first mural project, and she's now full-time art, doing collaborations with the NBA, Reebok, painting shoes, doing all light projections. She did Kapow. So we're just glad that we were able to give the opportunity for the creative collision and the collaboration to happen. Could it have happened otherwise? Sure. But these are some of the byproducts that come by putting artists and creatives in places together. And that's
by
beautiful.
Providing the space, providing the incubator, and just kind of letting artists do their thing, putting these people together makes amazing projects come to life. It's always so exciting to see that.
I love it. I mean, and it just, even some of the other success stories, just, they might not hold as much weight as those, but just having artists say, like, I feel like I'm back in college. Like, I'm able to, this is my this is their safe place.
Yeah.
And obviously from having a studio outside your home and having painted at home as well, like by getting outside of your house, and being around other creatives and seeing their work and seeing their materials and mediums and so on and so forth, it definitely helps spark creativity.
Yeah, it opens up so much more potential. And I think we talk, my circle of friends and I talk about third spaces often. And, we're going to places maybe where you don't want to have a dining experience or a drinking experience. It's kind of hard to find those third spaces, but art studios have been becoming one of them, where if you have a place that's welcoming, you have a space where either if you're just creating or you're inviting other people maybe to do a little bit of creating while they're there, while they're spending their time with you, people doing workshops, hosting classes, even just, a paint and sip or come have a glass of something while we tour the studios and we can talk about the art that's here. It's great to have more and more of those popping up and hopefully staying longer, but popping up is good too. We'll take it.
Amen.
So that's some of the artist success. What about like the success that you see economically? Like what are the impacts of partnering with these, retail locations and you're driving traffic to these spaces. You're having visitors. You're making an impact in the local economy. What does that look like?
So one of the wins in the win-win-win scenario is for the properties. And this obviously wouldn't be possible without the commercial real estate partners that provide the space for us discounted so we can provide it discounted to artists. So first and foremost, obviously it supports the walkability of the center. Nobody wants to go to that dark corner of the mall,
right?
And it really does deter foot traffic. So it brings light to the space. We always say closed doors don't generate positive press. The press has been very generous to our concept by the novelty of it, and by the altruistic and genuine nature that we're doing this work for. So a lot of press, a lot of shopping centers let their public relations firm go during COVID because there wasn't really anything positive to talk about. Commercial real estate has taken a hit, understandably, with everything post-COVID.
Right.
So we're generating positive press, and we don't charge the shopping center for that. We have our own agency. We do our own press releases and outreach. And then it does support economic activity. It helps retain shoppers in shopping centers longer. That they're more than likely going to frequent and support the neighboring coffee shop, boutique, whatever the case may be. We do a lot of collaborations with neighboring tenants. We have a space in Gulfstream Park in Hollandale Beach next to Williams-Sonoma. They came up with a collaboration to paint the aprons that Williams-Sonoma sells. And Williams-Sonoma had an opportunity to invite their customers in with an average daily spend of $1,500 and give them a discount both ways. If they bought something at Williams-Sonoma, they got a discount off the art. If they bought a piece of art, they got a discount off of Williams-Sonoma. We've had artists create artwork, either like A-frame sandwich board signs or actual signs for some of the retailers in the shopping centers we've been in, which is a great opportunity for an artist. And so obviously the events drive a lot of traffic, which brings eyeballs to places. Like we've done a lot of events at the Brick, the Boca Raton Innovation Campus. It used to be the IBM headquarters. It sat vacant for a long time. Their team, CP Group, has done a phenomenal job of revitalizing it and making it now an event hub, which eventually is going to have residential housing, and they have images and renderings and photos in the space. So when we do events and it brings people into a shopping center or an office building or whatever the location might be, it gives them a new perspective. Most people haven't been to the Boca Raton Innovation Campus before, when it was IBM or now. And it's a really cool building. There's art all throughout the building. There's, really amazing works, not just from our artists. So it just really helps with the exploration opportunity to discover the other tenants, the other artwork, the other activations, the other things going on in the community. So that's some of how we create the win-win-win that does ultimately create the economic impact, not just with our artists, which we're glad to support, but the neighboring businesses as well.
That's wonderful. So when you're designing these spaces, or when you're, walking around and looking at vacant places, how are you making the plans to make a space that's not only welcoming and engaging for artists to work out of, to show out of, but one that's welcoming and engaging for people, for passersby, for visitors? What does that look like when you're planning an empty space?
We have some preferences. We only work with the spaces that are offered to us. We don't really do that much outreach anymore. So, it does have to have obviously like working AC and working bathroom. We don't require it to be on Main Street or have window frontage or, be the prime location. Oftentimes it's not, because it's a vacant space. But there are, some basic criterias. And basically, we just want to have ideally a 3,000 square foot space that allows us to put in multiple artists, because we do guarantee to the property owners that the space will be open and activated daily. It's a lot easier to do that when you have at least 7 artists. Everybody does one day a week, no problem. So like the size, we look for other little things, like the electrical outlets and stuff like that. We can't, we can make some basic improvements. We can't add a new bathroom to a space, so it has to have a working bathroom. We can add a slop sink, but there does have to be like water hookups and stuff like that. But it doesn't have to be on main and main. It just ideally have to be up to code and, have some accessibility. But it's interesting now that we're going to other places like Chicago, where they have these super old buildings. Some have been vacant for 10, 15 years. Some of them are like really long and narrow. They only have one entrance. They were built, 100 years ago. And now we're having to get kind of innovative and creative. But thankfully, my business partner is a, retail shopping center genius, one of the most creative people I know. And we've just developed resourceful, sustainable ways to be able to do this. Mind you, this is pretty much still a self-funded initiative. We don't get funding to do this. So we do this with our own money, time, and resources. So as long as it works within budget and it can allow the win-win-win for the artists, then we'll, take the space, and we're always open for new spaces. So
there you go.
If you know a developer,
that's right.
Don't hesitate to reach out.
And you mentioned multiple states. Can you tell us the states that you're in?
We're currently in Florida,
yeah,
Natick, Massachusetts, in the Natick Mall in former Burberry store in what we believe to be the only art studio in the world next to a Louis Vuitton, which is cool. Richmond, Virginia, which is a super cool place in Stony Point Fashion Park, which is a great shopping center. Little Rock, Arkansas, and the next states we're preparing for Grand Rapids, Michigan for our first makerspace in a little town called Wyoming right next to it. Atlanta, Philly, and the next one we should be opening out of state is at the ground floor of the W Hotel in Hollywood, California.
Wow.
So that should be an interesting
Very
one.
exciting.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're on the road a good bit, right? Yeah. All right. Well, let's switch gears and talk about some of the work that you do that's more in the mindfulness arena. And we can actually talk a little bit about this book that we have here on the table. But my first question that is kind of I consider you, I don't know if you consider you, but I consider you a wellness advocate. You're somebody who's, not just preaching hustle culture, even though you do hustle, I think, but you're very mindful of the way that you work through your life and live through your work. And you are engaged in an active yoga practice. You're an active reader. You surround yourself in community of people that support you and to kind of, make sure that you're not constantly like running into a wall of burnout, right? So how do those practices fit into a very busy life?
Well, before those practices, I was running into multiple bouts of burnout, which I think most people have if they know it or not. And unfortunately, serendipitously, during the pandemic, the powers of yoga fell into my life very serendipitously with the old friend that I knew from the Arts District in Fort Lauderdale, who became my teacher, my coach, my guru, Chloe Ravel, the Gemini Rising. And she helped me develop not only my yoga practice, but after I fortunately moved into a beautiful brand new building in downtown Fort Lauderdale where she was offering free yoga classes, I started working with her one-on-one for coaching, and she helped me develop some much needed habits, rituals, best practices, and morning and daily routines, starting off with moment of gratitude, followed by affirmations, followed by, positive motivational talks, meditation practice, taking I have diabetes, so taking my health and my supplements and my diet more into consideration. And then, I do maintain a yoga practice. Yoga has done wonders for me, and pretty much anybody that's practiced yoga could probably preach the same. But it certainly helps me slow down, stay grounded, stay balanced, stay more mindful, have immense amounts of gratitude.
Those dinner reservations and tea times will have to wait, because there's an art-filled paradise beyond these beaches. A mecca of masterpieces, spectacular sights by day and night. A cultural capital that's calling your name. See so much more than you came for in the Palm Beaches.
According to the American Cancer Society, lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer deaths in the U.S. in both men and women. Often asymptomatic, it can go undiagnosed for a long time. But when symptoms do appear, it's usually because the cancer has spread, making survival less likely. Early screenings are critical to detect and treat lung cancer. Recently, the United States Preventative Task Force dropped the recommended age for annual lung cancer screenings to age 50. The screening is a simple CT scan ordered by your primary care physician. Most insurance plans cover the screening for adults over 50 that currently or have previously averaged a pack a day of cigarette smoking for 20 years.
This Medical Minute is brought to you by Tampa General Hospital and USF Health, Morsani College of Medicine at the University of South Florida. Learn more at tgh.org/the Palm Beaches.
On so many levels I never would have imagined before, thanks to the work and, thankfully your invitation to my first book club when we started off with the yamas and the niyamas. The ethical practices of yoga really helped me kind of like learn a little bit more. It's not just the physical practice on the mat, but kind of what you take off the mat. And that has applied to this crazy, busy life that we all live to help me, really kind of reframe my relationships, reframe my interactions, reframe how I'm showing up in the world, and how I'm able to support people. I've always been in this, very altruistically, very authentically, very genuinely, but it really has helped me kind of be more mindful of my time, not spreading myself too thin, and really just to remain grounded and balanced. So I am now a wellness advocate, and I do advocate even for things like, getting your blood work done annually so you can see if you have pre-diabetes or, God forbid, if you have diabetes, so you can take the steps to take control of your health, because nobody can pour from an empty cup. And, it's unfortunate the current state of, health in this country is not the best, but you can make changes. And I start my mornings off with smoothies now with all organic, natural stuff. I make my salads for lunch, meal prep dinner. I've never felt better. And, to be your best, you have to feel your best so you can do your best. So that's a little bit about that.
Yeah. Incorporating, starting small, like one new habit, one new bettering self thing at a time makes a big difference in the long run. And I think a lot of people in, not necessarily your specific of what you're doing, but people in the industry who are, in nonprofit work, who are in these more altruistic fields, find themselves getting burnt out a lot, because there's a lot of giving being done and a lot of taking being done, and not always a lot of, checking in with yourself to make sure that you're taking care of your health, taking care of your mentality, doing the practices that you need to then go best serve your community. So I always admire you for that, for being, a wonderful example of you can do a lot, but you can also respect yourself and set your boundaries that, make you that much better of a efficient leader, guiding post, whatever, in your community.
Correct. And it does start with one change, one choice. And as you alluded to, I summarized 7 choices that I made primarily outside of my comfort zone that allowed me to unlock my hidden potential and change the course of my life, my community, and potentially the world through the work that we're doing through Zero Empty Spaces and beyond. So I pose questions back at the end of each chapter to the reader to help them unlock their hidden potential and maybe make some choices outside of their comfort zone to change their life, their world, or their community. Doesn't have to be art, doesn't have to be mindfulness, but I'd like to feel if I was a regular Johnny 9-to-5 recruiter sitting at a desk, listening to some TED Talks on my break, and I was able to make, this transformation and these changes, anybody can do that, because we all have something hidden, buried inside of us.
Absolutely. Yeah. We want to see it, though. We don't want it to stay hidden and buried, right? I love that, like you said, with those, grandma and grandpa artists who have been kind of just working away in their homes for decades, who have finally have that feeling, that, moment of, oh my gosh, I feel like a real artist now that I'm out and that people can see the work that I'm doing, and just to acknowledge that is a real part of them and that they're a creative person, they're an artist, no matter what level. That does a lot for somebody's soul.
Yeah, and they feel like they're one of the other great things that I love when they tell us, like, they feel like they're going to work, because they are going to work. And not every artist is in there to sell. Like, they're not galleries, they are studios. So, some people just want the space to work, which is completely fine. And we're really glad to be able to provide that for people, because it is a creative outlet, that third space, that safe space for people so that they can explore their creativity. And we're certainly glad to do that. And then the spaces serve as placemaking hubs also for talks, workshops, potlucks with artists.
Yeah.
And then out of that, we recently just launched our first Cruise for Creatives wellness retreat in partnership with my dear friends from Art Next Level, Sergio Gomez and his wife, Dr. Nina Gomez.
They're like just a really cool, I haven't met them in person yet, but I'm going to soon, hopefully. And they seem like a power couple in this like arts organizational space.
Yeah, he's a leading artist, curator, gallerist, ran a 85,000 square foot 4-story art center in Chicago for a long time. She's a leading psychologist, author, speaker, coach. And together they created this arts marketing and mindset platform to provide like very holistic and genuine and tangible, applicable resources for artists to take their life and career to the next level, hence our next level. And with another friend and supporter of mine, Francine Sweet of Sweet Life Travel Tribe. She's a cruise planner, author, creative herself. She's been coming to our quarterly potlucks. She knows I hadn't been on a cruise before, and we've been doing these potlucks since before COVID, and said, why don't we take it to the next level? Why don't we do this on a cruise? Sergio and his wife hadn't been on a cruise before either. So we're launching our first wellness retreat, Cruise for Creatives, in March 2025, the week of my birthday, aboard the Virgin Voyages Scarlet Lady, which means no kids. And it's going to be a cruise. We're going to retreat from this crazy life that we live here in America, but we're also going to have some talks. I'm going to give my talk on going from burnout to balance, identifying the signs of burnout, so you could take tools and equip them to help you combat or hopefully prevent burnout, because no one can pour from an empty cup. They're going to do their talks on arts, marketing, and mindset. Francine lost over 135 pounds after the age of 60, which is phenomenal. She's a health, wellness, happiness, mindset, body coach as well. And then we'll have optional suggested itineraries of, there is yoga on the ship. There are excursions, there are dinners and shows and stuff like that. I'm going to be getting sound bowl certified from my teacher and friend, Chloe Ravel. So I'm going to bring the sound bowls.
Very cool.
Help.
I love that you took this potluck dinner, right? You're having monthly, is it?
Quarterly now.
Quarterly potluck dinners. And now it's morphed into this awesome collaboration between Art Next Level and your friend, and you've combined it into a wellness retreat. That's pretty incredible. So artists can have a little part vacation, part, like seminar. They're learning from amazing minds in the industry on how to market their artwork and how to, like you said, prevent burnout and engage more in the wellness part of
making new
being an
connections,
artist.
new neural
Absolutely.
pathways, being new places. We're going to Western Caribbean. I had never been to Roatan, Honduras, which I hear is amazing.
Yeah, you grew up like right next to a huge port and you've never been on a cruise.
So my first time, I'm excited. And we do have payment plans available. It's 6 months out. You can still get in for like $200 a month, which for 6 nights with the meals and all that included, that's a pretty good deal. But if anybody has questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and glad to have them join.
So do you see more retreats planning in your future?
As you know, I have attended 2 of Chloe's annual retreats through her business, Rise in Nature Retreats, to Serafos, Greece, which is a beautiful island, and Cercal in the Alentejo region of Portugal last year. And it's something now that I'm prioritizing, planning, and budgeting for, to make that annual getaway. This year I want to go to Bali, and I'm starting to plan and save for that. But I've been planning on bringing artists places, not as a residency yet.
Okay.
We're working to launch a nonprofit where we're going to try to help facilitate that. But I have a dear friend that has exhibited in the art fair and has exhibited with us and has done Zero Empty Spaces when she's been here, who lives in Genova, Italy. Her name's Marcella Novotny. She's from there. She went to university there. And we've been putting together some ideas to bring artists to Italy to live, work, learn, create, get inspired from her college professor. And then when I went there for the first time, we went to the Venice Biennale, which is the longest running art fair in the world, which was a mind-shattering experience. So I do think out of this, the next step will then be to take artists places for, I guess it will be a retreat, and because it'll be somewhere between a retreat, a residency, and an excursion. It'll be an experience.
An experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. But it's always exciting to see and hear what's coming up for you, because you are, I've heard the term kind collaborator. So you're always open to collaborations. It's something where, you aren't necessarily following a hard and fast goal path in your life. You have certain kind of placements that you want to get to, but you're open along the way to these things and these opportunities that come up that create really interesting divergent branches on that tree, on that path. Can you tell us a little bit about Creative Zen and how that kind of comes into play, and how I think those kind of talks are something that you've really gotten a lot out of personally, and that you then help organize to, let other people kind of receive the benefits of incredible speakers, inspirational people who come in and offer a lot of words of wisdom.
Yes, and friendly reminder, we would still always invite you to speak at Creative Zen at some point in the future, but we'll get there. I was early on motivated by TED Talks. I started listening to them on my lunch break, going to my parents' house after work to watch them. Found out Nova was actually hosting TEDx NSU pre-COVID. I used to go annually with my mom. It was one of our favorite things. And then a friend and mentor of mine said, oh, there's a mini one that takes place in this co-working space in downtown Fort Lauderdale where I'm renting space from. And it was called Creative Mornings. And that's where I received some inspiration in the form of an aha moment that I attribute to helping kind of set me on this path of arts, culture, and community building, coming from being that 9-to-5 recruiter. So I was hosting. I helped start the Palm Beach chapter up here many years ago. And when the chapter in Fort Lauderdale closed, my business partner, God bless him, one of the most creative geniuses I've ever known, said, well, we can create our own, and we can call it Creative Zen. And I was not a yogi at that time, and I really did not know what Zen was. So we were doing it under the Creative Zen guys for, I think, 2 years. And then when we came back from COVID, Chloe, my teacher, was the first speaker, and she led a guided meditation. So I asked her to continue doing that. And then somebody shortly thereafter said, how are you putting the Zen in this monthly breakfast lecture series mini TED Talk? And I said, well, let me show you. And then so Chloe and her business partner, Kelly Tolliday from Rising Nature Retreats, they help put everybody, including the speaker, in a more grounded, balanced state before a thought-provoking, inspiring talk by somebody locally in the community. It could be an entrepreneur, an artist, a startup founder, a psychologist, whoever. I found that these talks are very relatable. Just hearing somebody's story, this led to that led to this is what I'm doing now. So I continue to host and pay it back, pay it forward inside the Cotilla Gallery at the Alvin Sherman Library on the campus of Nova Southeastern University, where my business partner is president of the Circle of Friends board for the library. So we try to get people into the library because libraries, as you know, are great places. Yeah. So it's a free event every second Friday morning of the month. And you never know. We publish the speakers in advance, but you never know who you're going to hear from, what you're going to learn, who you're going to meet at the event.
Right, who's going to be attending, and you get the chance to network with them and have opening conversations. And yeah.
That's how I got invited to the book club, because we went to the one in Palm Beach and you tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, by the way, I got this book club. Do you want to join? And I always wanted to be in a book club. So I'm forever grateful.
It was probably the best book club that I've ever been a part of. It's the only book club I've ever been a part of. Hey. But yeah, still one of the best ones. I love that. Yeah, those anytime I've attended a Creative Mornings chapter up here, I always get something out of it. Having the chance to sit in a small audience, but in front of a speaker live, I always feel like is more connecting for me personally. And then, the opportunity to speak with them afterwards. But yeah, just to hear somebody's story, whether it's an industry that I am aware of, related to, connected with at all or not.
Right.
It's always just a good learning moment, a good connecting moment. And it's kind of a nice, breakaway from the usual routine, which I think is important too. I think routine, while routine can be really beneficial, routine can also be turning into a rut potentially. So if you are, if somebody who's looking for another way to network, this is a really unique one that kind of brightens your brain a little bit, I think.
That one is one of my favorite. So that's a monthly event. Bi-weekly, we host a goal-setting accountability mini mastermind group called Axen Club, AXEN. It's Action and Zen. You come with a goal, idea, startup, a passion project, or none of those things. And the brain, trust, and power in the room help you accelerate and innovate these ideas and goals. We do that in our art space called Art in Oakland Park in Broward County. And then if there are men out there that are looking for connection, inspiration, and community, I'm very proud to be part of a weekly men's group under Weekly Men's Circle, where it's part therapy, part brotherhood. None of us are therapists, but it's very therapeutic. We hold space for one another. We do some breath work. We start off with Wim Hof breathing, and then we go around and, there's a great accountability component because we're meeting weekly. Then we have annual retreats. We have monthly dinners. So people always say, how do I tap into community? I mean, there's ways to tap into community. Brass Tacks, which unfortunately is on the same night as the men's group on Wednesdays at the Peach that Craig's been leading for a minute now, is a great way for artists to kind of come together and get more knowledge about the business side, the brass tacks of art. Yeah. So there's ways for people to tap in. It might not jump out and seek you. You might have to seek it. But between Creative Morning, Creative Zens, Accent Club, Weekly Men's Circle, and Brass Tacks. I mean, there's 5 things right there that people could tap into. And, you know, I've met some of my best friends. My life infinitely changed for the better indefinitely from attending those monthly breakfast lecture series events, which is why I continue to pay it back, pay it forward, host them for free, record them, put them on YouTube, make social clips, because you never know who's going to be sitting in the audience yearning for some inspiration like I didn't even know I was. And, you know, wouldn't be sitting here today more than likely if it wasn't for that talk.
Yeah. Well, in that same vein, I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for you, literally, because I was a guest on your podcast, and that was my first experience being on a podcast, and I had a good time. I was so nervous.
I remember.
In fact, I'm just, you know, I'm like always a little camera shy, nervous when I don't know what to expect, but you made it easy. It was a fun conversation. It's still up on YouTube.
Yep.
But people can tune in and check out the Artists of Zero Empty Spaces. That's why you started that podcast, right? But yeah, it was a great experience. And when this opportunity came up for me, I pulled that out of my memory and I said, okay, I got through that. I actually enjoyed myself. People messaged me afterwards and said, you know, that was really cool and interesting, and it was great to have a conversation with you in that way. So I thought, all right, I'd kind of like to do another version of that. So here I am.
Amazing. So once again, forever so proud of you. I know this is, you know, was maybe a step outside of your comfort zone, but this has already led to great things. You've got a great setup, great production, great guests. I'm glad to be in company of, you know, Dave Lawrence. So please keep up the good work.
We definitely will. And I mean, I say that because it's a team.
Yep.
I'm the lucky one who gets to be facing the cameras and having the conversations, but it's definitely a team with the ArtiGras, you know, the wonderful show that I've been a part of for years, basically my whole life, from the Chamber, Palm Beach North Chamber of Commerce. I mean, the people here at Podcast Space Plus, I'm going to give them a shout out because they're awesome. It's just great. It's great to work with creative people and have the opportunity to share more stories, you know, in a similar vein of just getting that information out there, hoping that it finds the right audience and some people get some ideas sparked, and it just keeps continuing.
If I could just give a quick kudos to
Please.
Palm Beach County, and I've made this point a few times, but this is a great opportunity to do it. The Cultural Council, the CVB, Discover the Palm Beaches, the county, the DDA, the city, the chamber, everybody speaks the same language. They did a phenomenal marketing campaign of branding Palm Beach the cultural capital of Florida. And as a result of Mosaic, a month of events, and the Open Studios events that we've been a part of, the county-wide Open Studios events, and by so many things that, you know, they've put time, money, resources into, it really has established Palm Beach as a phenomenal place for the arts, not just the Norton, not just the Armory and the places that people know about, but there's so many other places like the Peach. And they're not standing here. I'm opting to give them kudos. The fact that the Chamber stood up and opted to sponsor this initiative and this podcast to help tell the stories and extend the reach, like, kudos to them.
I agree. It was so exciting to have that conversation and hear what, you know, people want to expand into the areas and recognize the importance of the arts and what it does for us, you know, in our personal lives and what it means to be surrounded by creativity and art, but also it's important financially for our community. You know, it's a big reason why people live and visit places. This is, you know, becoming the arts and cultural capital of Florida, and to have that recognized is really exciting and grow and see it grow. And like you said, all the initiatives that all these places are collaborating on and giving a lot of time, attention, resources to. I mean, Mosaic is amazing. Open Studios is an event that I've been so excited to participate in for the first 2 years. I know they're going to do it again.
Yep.
Year 3 is coming up in May. And it's an amazing initiative. It's where, you know, artists can sign up to be on a list of studios that will be open for a weekend. And these are places that might not always be open to the public.
Correct.
So they could be home studios, or they could be places that, you know, people don't normally have public hours, and the public is connected with them. They do a huge, you know, marketing and promotional campaign. And we get, I had people come up from Miami, visit my studio who would have never otherwise found the Peach, a relatively small art collective in West Palm Beach. I had people come down from Orlando. I mean, they really, it's been great. So I'm right there with you in the excitement of seeing all these places and seeing the support. They do an excellent job.
And it was a really cool event. And I'm glad that they made it 2 days, because to go from North Palm Beach County to South Palm Beach County, could be over an hour. And then there was even artists that were out west in West Palm Beach County.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they're continuing that. And then the last one I didn't mention, but even like the Economic Development Office, they've done a phenomenal job. BDP, yesterday they just announced a campaign, Wall Street of the South, like officially. And how has that, provided benefit? You talk about like economically, there's so many companies that are moving their headquarters to Palm Beach. I mean, really to South Florida, but really Miami and Palm Beach, because they've invested in the arts, they've embraced the arts, and the arts provide things for their employees of these company headquarters to do to enrich their life. So they're not just going to work, going home, rinsing, repeat. Yeah. I always like to consider art the play part of the live, work, play balance. And once again, just Palm Beach, God bless them, has done a phenomenal job on every level.
And we could say that as arts of all genres, right? Art doesn't just mean paintings. It doesn't just mean murals on the street that you can engage with when you're in the city. It means music, performance, culinary arts, all the places that make a really well-rounded, big experience that people, want to enjoy the play portion of their life that they have opportunities to, big and small. Yeah.
Amen. But performing arts, I mean, I saw Tim Meadows at the Meisner Cultural Center for my birthday, do, some improv. Kravitz Center has phenomenal programming. There's small theaters all throughout as well. And I there's one question we're probably not going to get to, but I know you wanted to ask.
Well, that leads me into my next question, what you just said, though.
well,
it's just, I always want to ask the question, if you're talking to anybody who's visiting or living in Palm Beach County, what is one art experience that you're always going to say, oh, you gotta do this, you gotta see it, you gotta go to this event, you gotta see this piece of art, you gotta go check out this museum? Can you pick one and tell us?
And you're probably at first going to say, well, that's not really art, but I know it's one of your favorite places, or a place you love, Murakami.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
And which is museum and
that
gardens.
Is totally an art, by the way. Yeah. The art of landscape design, of the maintenance of these, the plants, and it's definitely an art for sure.
And
they have a gallery there that does rotating shows. Then they also have the cultural festivals and events, the Oban Festival. I've been to the what's the most recent one I went to? I can't remember the name of it. Maybe it was that one where we lit lanterns and then got the opportunity to, kind of set them out onto the lake there. Just beautiful grounds, though.
In Delray, really a hidden gem. I've been to weddings there. I've been to some great events there. So that one always sticks out. Not for nothing. I really do think the brick, just also like the architecture, as the brutalist architecture from Marcel Brewer. There's art all throughout the building, not just our artists. And I loved the mural projects that have taken place that I know unfortunately have somewhat since changed in Lake Worth. With the Cobra mural that was on the back of the Cultural Council's headquarters, which Craig, God bless him, just
there's
repainted.
A brand new mural on that building now. Actually, I haven't seen it in person yet. I need to get over there and see it in person.
But even once again, Palm Beach County brought Cobra, Eduardo Cobra, one of the top muralists in the world, to do multiple murals in it. And not only him, Okuda, who's arguably top 3 muralists in the world, brought so many, defaced so many leading muralists have come here to Palm Beach County. And it's just, once again, a testament to the investment, the collaboration, the community. But there's, a lot of other hidden gems in Palm Beach that I would certainly encourage people to go on to the Cultural Council's website. Definitely check out Mosaic, make a plan on your calendar for the month of May to go and explore all throughout. And then obviously ArtiGras is probably one of the, and really I know this from you, from the success that you've had and shared through your social media and through conversations we've had, it's one of the longest running art fairs. It's art festivals.
We're coming up on 40 years this year. Yeah.
And it's in a good market where people, have discretionary income to spend on art. And it's very well produced. It's very well marketed. It's very well put together. How many art fairs have their own podcast?
And we love to be in the host city, Palm Beach Gardens now. I mean, it's bounced between Palm Beach Gardens and Jupiter, and now we're back to Palm Beach Gardens. But yeah, it's incredible. And I know they've got some exciting things planned for this year, even when it comes to like layout changes, the details that they go through to make this and produce this incredible event. That's why it's the show that I do. And it's the one event every year for me that I just, I'm not ever going to miss. It's wonderful.
And talk about economic impact. I mean, it's a portion of your years.
Absolutely. It's a big part of my year as a professional artist and where I get my income and how I either reconnect with long-term collectors or I connect with new collectors, how people find my work. It's a great experience to just have those immediate connections. It's so different when you're at an art show, and also it's a limited amount of time. And people know that they see a work, they feel a response to it, or, they've come prepared in mind with this blank wall that they've been staring at, and they're ready to invest in some artwork that makes them feel, better about their space that they're spending a lot of time in, whether it's, the place that they live, the place that they work. But yeah, having the ability to connect one-on-one instantaneously with people in front of your artwork, not just even for purchase, but just for reactions and conversations and, other artists, to connect with other artists too. I love the fact that they have the emerging artist program.
Yes.
Is always such a big feature that I love to talk about there, because I started in that emerging artist program. I recognize the immense value of having a mentorship program for, not necessarily artists who are just starting their creative journey, but artists who are just starting their journey into arts festivals.
Yes.
And showing and exhibiting their work that way. It's so incredible to have somebody to help you along that and say, okay, the booth setup, the marketing, the hours of it, how you need to have your payment portal set up, and all those little details that you might not realize go into producing a successful event. And, being able to support yourself financially as an artist. They have mentorship for that, for those emerging artists.
Everybody started at zero, even Thick Paint. Everybody started at that first event. And it's also interesting too, because I know you've shared with me some success stories with buyers that have come through this event, but like every buyer or collector of art is going to start at somewhere. And maybe you start with a print. Maybe you start with an original, maybe you start with a commission, however you get there is fine. But art festivals and art fairs provide great opportunities to discover a large array of local artists that you can, or not only local, because people
local,
travel.
Local, national, yeah, absolutely.
People, you can meet them, have a conversation with them, see examples of their work. So I'm super glad to support that. And one last thing to mention, not everybody has the propensity to purchase fine art, understandably. So we've developed through Zero Empty Spaces an art leasing program that allows people to lease artwork for 3% of the value on a monthly basis, on a 3, 6, or 12-month basis, with the option to buy. Minimum $10,000 value of artwork. So if you have a lobby of your office, of your condo, or whatever, for $300 a month, if you don't have $10,000 in the budget to buy the art, you can do it on a rotating basis. And then we split the proceeds for doing the work and facilitating with the artist. The artists retain ownership of the work. And then we have the person that's leasing it pay for the installation, and then the artist can still get it back or resell it or whatever later.
Sell the work, yeah.
So not everybody has the ability to purchase a Thick Paint original just yet. Maybe one day, but maybe we can incorporate you in the leasing program for works that you have in inventory.
That's a great program. I've worked with similar ones in the past and I've had my work hang in beautiful hotels that, would have never otherwise, they weren't purchasing work permanently.
Correct.
But they were doing rotating shows. And it was a great way for, me to show my work in a new space. It was exciting and get a lot of eyes on it. But then also, like you said, retain the piece eventually. And I got to sell that later on. But yeah, it was a great program. I like that a lot.
In innovation, new ideas. We're about to open our Zero Empty Spaces online e-commerce to help artists get discovered and sell as we continue to grow the program to new states and new locations. Somebody's going to go into Richmond, Virginia, our studio there, pick up a QR code or a flyer and say, oh, who's this Thick Paint in Florida? And be able to purchase. We're not going to charge the artists up front to be on there. And we're hoping that it can be the next like Artsy or Saatchi. And we're glad to, we're going to continue rolling out more workshops, more education, more resources for artists, more community for artists. We are actively having conversations with developers to establish the long awaited and desired live workspaces that, unfortunately we just don't have that many of here in South Florida. So hopefully, at some point in the future, those become more regular. We want to establish more proper residencies, in other states where we can send artists to live, work, create, get inspired. So if somebody's listening to this and they like what they hear, we're open books, like you said, kind collaboration. Please don't hesitate to reach out. We just had somebody reach out that we never would have expected. A major fast food company that has locations that are closing that asked us what we could do with them. Wow. And we're going to create a very cool culinary concept for chefs out of these empty spaces that we're really excited about, and be launching some more information on soon. So you never know what will happen if you reach out, and we're glad to do this. We're glad to speak. We're glad to, maybe we're getting more into consulting because we can't go activate every empty space. Right. Yeah. So we have a vacancy advisory form on our website. If you're a city, a business improvement district, a community redevelopment agency, a property owner, property manager, and you're struggling with vacant space, you can go on our website, fill out this form, and we can help remotely in lieu of going and activating the space. So we're trying to find different solutions for different people, for different things. And we are, lastly, very excited to get into the makerspace world, because we, in our spaces, can only accommodate so many mediums because of the zoning. But as we get into different types of spaces, woodwork, metalwork, ceramics, resin and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. The first one, looking like it's going to be in the Grand Rapids area. We've been working on that for a while, but we want to be able to, provide more platforms for various creatives, whatever their medium is, so that they can pursue their craft, their passion, their creative outlet, their profession, whatever it may be for them, so they could have an opportunity to, unlock their hidden potential, live their best life, and become the next stick paint one day.
I love it. That's super, just amazing work that you're doing. I'm so excited that we got to share this story. Thank you for being on here. One last question before I let you go, please, is if you have just maybe a quick piece of advice for people who are maybe coming up in the arts and culture sector, who are looking to be placemakers, event makers, organize these things that inspire future generations. Any little piece of advice to leave us with?
I know this one will resonate with you as well. Start with why. And if you know which Simon Sinek's famous book and top 10 most watched TED Talk of all time. If you know your why, if you know your purpose, and if you're in it for the right reasons, hopefully authentically and genuinely, everybody has to make money and cover their living expenses. Even independently wealthy people, you can't just travel and sit at home all day. You want to do something that has some purpose to it. So whatever it may be, for me, it was initially food blogging, which led to arts and culture, which led to placemaking and community building. But, if it's yoga, if it's video games, if it's, crocheting, or even women's empowerment, I'm super blown away and impressed by, First Female and everything that's been coming out of that movement and the community that's being built there. So whatever your thing is, if you can really think about the why behind it, why it matters to you, why it'll matter to other people, there are ways to incubate and accelerate and evolve that concept so that you can, quote unquote, bring it to market. Or maybe it is a nonprofit. Maybe it is a volunteer effort. Maybe it is a passion project aside. Maybe it's none of those things. Maybe it's just something you do in the quiet times, in the dark hours of the night, and nobody knows about it, but it fills your heart. My father taught me that character is doing something good even when nobody's looking. And, it doesn't have to be, on TV type of thing. It doesn't have to be on social media. If you love going to retirement homes to speak and hear the stories of retirees and share stories with them or read to them, and maybe you don't post on social media. If that's your thing, if that's your why, because it brings you closer, you don't have your grandma or grandpa anymore, and it makes you feel closer to somebody, God bless whatever. If, handing out turkeys on Thanksgiving, going to work with Feeding Americas and Feeding South Florida and packing baskets, which I've done, which has been very rewarding and fulfilling. Whatever that thing is, there is a way there. And that's one of the reasons why I still love doing Accent Club for 7 years now, because we have people that come with, I always wanted to do this, and we help them do it. And, have changed so many lives, forever grateful. So there's no bad idea, but as long as you're authentic and genuine and start with your why, I think you could make it.
I love it. Well, the impact is incredible. I consider myself lucky to be a witness of it. Thank you again for being here, Evan. Is there a better or a way that people can connect with you? So shout out your online platforms, your social medias, whatever ways that you prefer people reach out. Let them know how they can connect.
Sure. I'm an open book, at Evan Snow 13, add Zero Empty Spaces, zeroemptyspaces.com, Evan at zeroemptyspaces.com, email, come to an event, come reach out.
Come to a potluck.
Come to a potluck. We're doing them quarterly. Next one's November 9th at it's in Broward. It's at our Zero Empty Spaces, Gulfstream Park. We did just get a location in North Broward almost on the border of South Palm Beach in Coconut Creek. So Our next location is in the Promenade at Coconut Creek, which is Wiles Road and Lyons Road. And we will host future potlucks there, because I know to go to Hollandale and Aventura, it might be far if you live in Palm Beach. But we'll host future potlucks at this Coconut Creek location, which we're very excited about. And that
Amazing.
Open house preview will be Saturday, November the 2nd from 2 to 3 p.m. So if you know an artist maybe in Boca, Del Rey, we're going to have probably 20 affordable artist studios there. We're very excited about.
And where can people find the book?
And the book, Learning to Choose, on Amazon, learningtochoose.com. I'm an open book. Glad to speak, glad to share. Have the Audible, have the audio book. And always looking for more speakers for Creative Zen. One day, hopefully we'll get you out there. And
one day when I get over my fear of speaking in front of a crowd, speaking in front of cameras is different than speaking in front of a crowd.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
I'm really proud of you.
You made it easy. You were an awesome guest. Thank you again for being here. I want to say thank you to all the listeners and followers. Thank you so much for tuning in. It means a lot to us. We love sharing these stories, and we want to keep sharing them. Huge thank you to our sponsor, the Cultural Council for Palm Beach County. We couldn't do this without their support. I'm Sarah. Thank you again. See you next time.